Commission. The board's actions in these matters has been deemed to be quasi-judicial in nature. If any person believes any member of the board has a conflict of interest, that issue should be raised at this point, or it will be deemed waived. I'd like to introduce the people on our board here. We have, on my extreme right, Dr. Dan Brown.
Good evening.
Yes, and Mr. Martin Ryan.
Good evening.
Ms. Reagan Rudig.
Good evening.
My vice chair is Margot Doring.
Hello.
And I'm John Wyckoff, the chair. Next to me in the planning department is Nick Cracknell.
Good evening.
Our city council rep, Rich Blaylock, is not here, but
He'll be
I've
here in 10
heard he's
minutes.
in 10 minutes. So, Mr. David Adams
Good evening.
and Karen Buffard.
Good evening.
Yes. So right now, I think that, you'll be voting for sure.
Yep.
So our first order of business is I don't see any approval of minutes here.
You had two sets.
Did we all get them? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the approval of the minutes for May?
I have one correction just to make for clarification. The May 3rd meeting minutes, page 9, it's public hearing for Portsmouth Housing Authority. I just want to be clear that I had recused myself from that one and I'm not on there, so.
Okay. All right. Any other corrections? Okay, so.
Approve?
Any against? All right, so that we have that done. The administrative approvals. Number one, Nick, 333 Newcastle Avenue.
Yes.
Reagan's going to recuse herself, so we should pull that. Do you
Okay.
want to get that out of the way right now?
Is that the only one for everybody?
Seems.
Then
Let's do it.
So 333 Newcastle Ave is a request to do the remaining section on the rear of the house in Hardy Plank. This is I don't remember the year of this house, but it's well post World War II. And they were approved for Hardy on all other sections of the building in a previous approval. So they want to put Hardy, and if you look at, this is not apparently bookmarked, so it's a bit of a pain for me to go to each. It's this section over here.
Yep.
This has all been done in Hardy
Uh-huh.
on the screen, so it's the left-hand side.
Okay. Any questions? A motion for this?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, now we can proceed.
So 795 Middle Street is a wood fence. Apologies, I have to do this to go down.
You said it was easy.
Yep. So there's the fence they're proposing to install. There's no fence there today. I don't think it's a replacement, it's a new fence. Wood fence, sculpted top section.
Is there an indication, Nick, is it going all the way around the property, just in the front?
Front only.
Front only.
That's what they've asked for.
Enclosing the yard, just running across the sidewalk, down the
Across
driveway?
the sidewalk?
And there's a couple of sides to the front yard here.
Unless it's a corner lot, I would suspect it's behind the sidewalk.
It is a corner lot.
Okay, then it's probably on both fronts. We should assume that.
I would.
Natural finish?
That's what this is.
Looks like.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. 49 Sheaf, I think the only real item on that list that requires approval is the Hardy Plank on this side of the building, which is the narrow walkway between 49 and 43. I'm sure this is coming from this door is being replaced, but I'm under the assumption it's in kind, given there was no alternative door shown in the package. They're replacing this broken section of the fence in kind with this tall picket style, but this is the cedar or pine clapboards on that sidewall that's within 3 or 4 feet at its narrowest, the building at 43. So,
Are they replacing those?
no, they're wanting to put hardy in there.
Replacing it?
Obviously, it should be, if you approve it, it would be smooth side out, I'm sure with the same profile.
Right.
We should probably stipulate that.
Yes.
The only other thing I would note is, we looked at the installation of some hardy plank
Yeah.
up on Prospect Street, and the installer did not do a very good job of randomizing.
No running
where
bonds, yeah.
everything butted in, and so if we could ask for a little bit of attention to detail and being paid to that.
And will they be able to match the
The what?
the width? Because the exposure is
Tight.
tight currently.
Why
And-
can't they do that?
And that's, hardy is usually 4.
Because it's blind nailed. It's nailed at the top of the hardy plank.
Okay.
And so if the clapboards are very close together, what that does is it brings out the bottom of the one above it. Does that make any sense?
Because it's thick.
So you
It's
can't
thick and
get a
not
tight
bendable.
siding. They do make narrow hardy plank, which would
Why don't you
be
do that?
okay for the 4-inch
On the bottom?
reveal.
I don't think you want more than 4 anywhere.
No, I
No,
think
you
it's
wouldn't want
three.
it's less than.
3.
So I think you go with the narrow hardy. If they sell a product that's going to resemble this better, we should require it.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up.
All right.
Is it required because fire rating?
Yeah. But there always is the den glass option underneath, but it starts to play with the trim, right?
Yeah.
And the sheathing. So the reveal should be no greater than 4 inches. They can
Correct.
buy whatever they need to buy.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it should be 3 to match existing, really,
Well, that's,
ideally.
Okay.
You
well,
haven't measured
We're
it.
going to match existing with a reveal no greater than 4 inches.
Thank
See what they can do with
Great.
that.
Okay.
And the door in kind.
In the doors in kind. Hang on, yep. I should be writing it somewhere else. Okay. Okay, we good with Chief?
Yep.
394 Pleasant is a request to put an aluminum gutter along the front facade on the Pleasant Street side of the building and add a fence on the side. This is the building here. There's currently, I believe, no gutter.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that statement is actually there currently is a 19th century gutter on the building.
On the front?
Yes, it's been roofed over so that it behaves now as a crown, but if you get there and look up at either end about 18 or 20 inches from the corner, you can see where there's a downspout hole been patched in with a piece of
I
wood.
see, there's no downspout.
Now, the problem that you're faced there is it's not really the kind of construction that supports modern, what we used to call K-style gutter. I think it's referred to as an OG box gutter these days.
yeah.
They're made to go on flat fascia. Back in the day, we used to put rods on the roof and dangle rods off the edge and hold a half-round gutter from brackets underneath it, freely from the roof, not attached to the building at all, just hanging from rods from the roof, to get around the problem of having to demo some architectural feature. I don't see how this works. I'd hate to see that gone. This building has been through enough, and it is in its most handsome condition I can recall in my lifetime. And I'd hate to be the one to say, let's make a mess of that.
Yeah. David, I would say that you can still get that strap hanger. So we could make that a stipulation, which would mean that they would have to leave the old wooden gutter as a crown underneath everything.
I think the way to get out of this, if you want to vote for approval, is to recommend that they use a suspended gutter.
Yes.
It's not the gutter issue that I'm against, or the architectural, it's the architectural nature of it.
No, I mean, they would really have to rip the thing apart. because I know how bad that is.
And the problem, I'm old enough, I've seen it done.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Chair, I'm not in favor of putting a gutter on there. I don't think it will work. If they want to put it on, there's like a little bump out on the back that has a flat fascia board, they can put it there, but I don't think it's a good idea on here, on the front.
We could pull that out
Yes, let's pull it.
and vote on it,
Sure.
because otherwise you'd have to vote against
I know,
all.
correct.
Okay, so,
And I don't intend to do that.
so 394 Pleasant.
Um,
And there is a fence that they want to replace with
Oh.
as part of the application. Is anybody here from Pleasant Street?
no.
And that's a replacement in kind,
No, it's this
No.
fence here on the right being lowered to resemble this fence.
lowered, okay.
Yeah. It's a wood fence.
Well, that's unusual. So unless there's any more discussion, I'm just going to call for a motion and with the
On this
stipulation.
particular one,
Yeah, 394
can
Pleasant.
can we pull the fence out? Because I don't have an issue with the fence, but I definitely have an issue with the gutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So split it.
Okay.
Well, do you want to vote on the fence?
Why are we pulling,
Why are you pulling what? If people are going to vote against the gutter, the fence could still proceed.
Can I just make a motion that I approve the fence, but not the gutter installation on any curved molding, except for flat fascia? If that makes sense.
Can you say that again? The gutter part?
The gutter should not be installed on any areas without a flat fascia board. How about that?
okay. So now the motion is just to approve the fence.
Seconded?
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? And so should we have a separate vote for this?
No,
Gutter? No?
no, my
What was the gutter?
motion
No, that was
included,
just the
It
fence.
included the
it
gutter.
included the gutter, but only on
Okay.
places where there's a
Do you
flat
want to change
fascia.
your vote?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
So it was unanimous that the fence is good
Okay.
and the gutter should not be installed on any portions of,
That has curved molding.
that has curb molding.
Is there a reason why they want to put gutters on?
Yeah, control the water.
Yeah. Why do you put gutters on?
I wonder
To
sometimes.
cause ice dams and
Maybe your
back
basement is,
everything up?
basement is flooding.
I don't know.
Okay,
Okay, just
Depend
curious.
on my gutters, I'll tell you.
all righty. So we'll go on to Walden.
Yep.
Which is an HVAC condenser that has to go to the Board of Adjustment because I believe it's 7 feet off the line instead of 10.
Do you-
Well, that's why they've included language in here to you that they plan on submitting with their variance application. But they're proposing, should they get this variance, to replace it, I believe, under the stair. There's a picture, I believe, in here. Under here,
Okay.
under the deck, I guess you'd say, not the stair, on the back of the house. So I don't believe they're proposing screening because of where it is. May have missed that.
So the chase,
And there is a conduit.
yeah, that conduit, that chase will have to be painted the
Yeah.
siding
That
color.
stipulation.
Nick, I'm a little
Go
confused
ahead.
because it says the bathroom unit is painted, it is shown,
Yep.
but then there's an asterisk saying that it will not be installed. The contractor drew this to show what it would look like. So are we,
Any
is
chase,
it, is
how's
it,
that?
is it
Anything.
just the living room unit that is running up the side of the building?
I'm looking for that note,
It's right there,
right?
at the bottom.
Yeah. So I guess it would exclude the bathroom unit, but does it matter if,
No.
as long as it's painted to match? I mean, obviously, less is more. So,
Yeah.
Right.
what do you want to do with that?
Nothing.
Go with what they wrote?
Just-
Yeah, let's go with what they wrote. So excluding the bathroom conduit.
And I'm guessing that it shows that the little picture under the deck hidden, but then there's another one the photo below that says outdoor unit placement option 1, using the side of the home. So if that's, I guess they're saying if that's a backup option, then that would require some screening.
So why don't we approve, I guess, they're calling the other one option 2 without labeling it, this one?
It maybe,
Preferred to put it underneath the deck, right?
Under the deck.
yeah, but is that why they're getting a variance, because they can't put it under there?
No, they need a variance to put it on the side here. So they must, that's why they've called it option 1.
They might be.
So then, let's have it come back for screening if they're successful. Unless they put it into what is not labeled option 2.
Okay.
Right.
And these lines will be painted
To match the
to
siding.
match either the siding or the trim, depending on where it's
Yes.
running.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, so they'll be back for a screen. Painted to match the siding of the trim depending on location. It excludes the bathroom conduit. And option 1, should it be approved, will require administrative approval of some type of screen.
Greening.
Okay. Number 6, 177 State. This is lighting for a sign. There's a lot of material in here related to the sign application, but the only thing that's jurisdictional to the HDC, ironically, is not the sign. Something to think about moving forward. So all this stuff is great, but the jurisdiction here is simply that light on that bar that's holding the sign, those 2 little lights. So, that's all you're approving.
Yeah. So apparently this is a showroom for cabinet makers.
I'm glad to see something finally going in there.
Yeah, very interesting. Just
No, it's sat so long,
6
doing
years,
nothing.
yep. Okay. Anything on that? All right. I think for 135, Daniel, unless somebody's here in the audience for that, we should continue that to next week because I had requested an indication of where that vent actually is located.
And what it looks
And I
like.
don't see it in the packet. So 172 South Street is another mechanical condenser to get down there. I believe this one is proposed to be here underneath the existing stairs behind the lattice. So presumably they've already had that okayed by the plumbing inspector, but that's the location. On the side of the house here.
And it'll be covered with the same lattice.
We'll write that down. Okay, that is 8. 1 sec. Okay. Number 9, 11 Market Street. This is a condenser again on the back of this building with a conduit running up the brick in this alleyway that very few people see. So presumably it would be conditioned to be painted the color of that brick wall.
Yes.
That's being replaced. So that's number 9. Sorry.
no, take your time.
Okay. All right, 28 Newcastle Ave. So this project was recently approved with a lot of moving parts. They had a few stipulations to come back seeking administrative approval for the, I'm on 28 Newcastle, right? Yeah, for the location, they're proposing to relocate the HVAC equipment, modify the stair design, the stone veneer, and use cedar shakes on the building, I guess to follow more the original look of the building. Is anyone here for this? Yeah, perfect. You want to add
Hello,
anything? to
I'm
that?
Erin Barber, homeowner at 28 Newcastle.
Yep.
So as we've gone through the project, we've wanted to make some tweaks, and so just wanted to come back and walk through those. The first one is the design or the width of the stairs on the front. So originally in the plan that was approved, the stairs were 10 feet wide, and they both kind of intersected with the pillars. In order to frame the front door more evenly, we'd like to bump out on the right-hand side the stairs and have them be 8 foot wide instead of 10. And so that's one change to the plan. The second change to the plan that we mentioned in the packet was actually needing to move the condensers because they were too close to the gas line and the original plan that we submitted. However, we've been going back and forth with Unitil to see if there was anything they could do. They sent out a tech today and said that it would be fine, and that after the condensers are placed where they were originally in the plan, if there's any issue, they'll come out and move the vent line or something like that. So it seems like we actually don't need to make that change, and the original location
Which is
will
here.
work. Correct. That's the original location that was approved in the plan.
Okay.
Lots of dynamic things happening in a project like this. And then you had asked for, before we proceed with the siding and the stone for the pillars, that we come back and talk about the materials. We've been we're talking to several masons because our original idea had been to basically recreate the look of the basement skirting with the field stone, but that's not been practical according to anyone that we've spoken with, so we are going to use a field stone veneer for that. And then in terms of the siding material, we will be using a cedar shake on the top of the house and a mahogany clapboard on the bottom half of the house. So just wanted to see if you had any questions on that.
No
So-
question?
So this section down here is clapboard, proposed to be clapboard? The darker brown?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, Dave.
What are you doing to the stairs? I can't see it in the pictures. The
Okay,
difference.
would you mind going back? I can, and would you go back to the first?
I'm sorry, you have to, if you're going
Oh,
to
you-
walk over
You
there.
gotta bring the microphone with you. There you go.
And basically, they wanted to, right now, in the original proposal, it was sort of offset, the stairs and the front door were offset from each other, and here
Yeah.
they've straightened it up so that the door is
Goes from
sitting
that.
pretty
Oh,
much in
okay,
the
I see.
middle.
The little-
Exactly.
This.
We've just
Little
moved this
Oh,
over
okay.
and created a new
Yep.
baluster
Thank you.
there. Yeah, thank you.
Old eyes. Missed it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 50 Daniel.
So on that one, we're keeping the condensers where they used to be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
So 50 Daniel was recently approved, and I believe there was a condition on the original approval for the base paneling on this building that they submit a sort of cross-section of how this storefront's going to work. So they're going to replace the standing seam. Let me see if I can zoom out here. Standing seams being replaced. They're reinstalling the lights, replacing the trim, and doing this. They're covering up the brick with this paneling, which is a series of, there's a cross-section. Where is it? Here, to the right. PVC panel with trim and a panel mold, and the historic sill. So that's what we didn't have enough information on last time.
Yeah.
How do people feel about that treatment?
I would just like to say, I believe that when this building underwent renovations 30 or 40 years ago and made into the storefronts that are currently existing, I think that those brick under the windows was installed at that time. I'm pretty sure. David, you're the historian?
I really, I don't have the date on that,
Yeah.
but obviously the brick is not original to the building, and it certainly fits in with the large window panel construction, so that certainly it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's a wooden building. Okay.
All right. The last two, 60 Penn Hollow and 111 State Street, are, I believe, the same lighting fixture. Let me just zoom in. So this is just, again, lighting, sign lighting for 60 Penn Hollow. This is the sign. Here are the lights. underneath the sign. Here are the fixtures. There's actually the light itself, and it's the same for 111 State Street. Sign and then the lighting, same light.
So are these lights just for the sign?
Yes.
Yes.
As submitted, anyway.
Yeah.
And are these, we have pictures of black and we have pictures of what appears to be metallic. Is it the metallic?
I believe it's the metallic, but, metallic, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's it.
Warning sign, take out window.
So the only one we're taking out to next week is number 7.
Yeah.
And we've done number 1, and we've done number 4.
Okay, so we need a motion then to continue number 7 until next week.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? All right.
And then I move to approve administrative approvals 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, with a few stipulations that we had
As
agreed
read.
on, as written.
Seconded?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, thank you very much. Nick? So, notice how polite I've gotten.
I've noticed.
Yeah. Certificate of Approval Extensions. A one-year extension of the Certificate of Approval originally granted on May 4th, 2022, requested by 2082 IL 50 VZ LLC owner for property located at 404 Islington Street, wherein permission was requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure. Removal and infill of one door, installation of mechanical equipment, installation of an ADA-compliant ramp, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 145 as Lot 33, lies within Character District 4-L2 and Historic Districts. So, this is the first one-year extension, I think. We have a motion.
Motion to approve the extension.
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? So we have the extension. Work session of old business, is this going?
Request to postpone,
Oh, okay.
so you should do that.
All right. Very sorry. Request to postpone the work session requested by Christopher Daniel Freund, owner for property at 37 Prospect Street, wherein permission is requested to allow new construction to an existing structure. Add separate first and second floor additions as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 141 as Lot 16 lies within General Residence A in the Historic District. I have a motion.
Move to postpone till next month? Is that what we're doing next?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Seconded?
July, yeah.
All right. Now we have,
We have to vote.
we haven't voted
Yeah,
yet.
correct.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right. A petition of 129 State Street LLC owner for property located at 129 State Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure. Add masonry parapet, as per plans on file in the Planning Department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 107 as Lot 47 and lies within Character District 4 and Historic Districts. And who is here to present this?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm Shane Forsley with Hampshire Development on behalf of 129 State Street. With me tonight is also Howard Spivak of Spivak Architects, design architect for the project, and Steve Wilson from HTC.
Welcome.
So we're happy to be back in front of you here tonight, and I just wanted to be clear that the application here tonight is just solely for the installation of the masonry parapet to handle the commingling of the roofs between 129 and 123 State Street as advertised. I know in the recent days here, I've had some conversations with many of the neighbors, and I've become acquainted with many of them who I didn't know previously. And, I wanted to emphasize the importance of the clarity and the ability of the neighbors to review the plan information of some other changes that we will later come to you with for a work session. And those changes include some reconfiguration of windows. We provided some elevations that were requested, but we can tackle all those at a later date. So I just wanted to make sure that we were only talking about the parapet here tonight.
So Shane, I'll just reiterate what you're saying so everyone up here and out there fully understands what I think you're saying. You've been clear. This was advertised several months ago only for the brick parapet to separate the two roofs. That's what we've been continuing for 2 or 3, maybe 4 months. I don't remember the duration, but it's been a number of months. You've recently submitted new material for other changes on that, on the building, mainly the addition, but also on the main historic structure. And that was not advertised as such and doesn't fit within the brick parapet. So the only thing we'll be reviewing tonight is the brick parapet portion. So you're going to have to blank out all the other pieces you've either looked at or will be looking at on the same plan, with an understanding we're going to re-advertise this either if they want a work session in July, that's how it'll be advertised. If they want a work session / public hearing, whatever they choose to do, they'll need to reapply, and we'll need the legal ad to be very clear about all those other changes, because they're numerous. So that's in fact what you're suggesting, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Nick.
All right.
Okay.
So you did provide me a jump drive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that useful for just the parapet, or we just pull up one of these slides?
No, you can just pull up one of these slides from the package you have here. I think between sheet A 200 and DSK 01.
So A200, I'm in the there we go.
900.
That-
There you
That's
go.
the one you want.
So there you see elevations, and in the following sheet, you'll see a detail of that parapet's construction. So.
But this is the parapet here, if you can see the mouse, right?
Correct.
And here, and here. Okay.
And so if you jump ahead one sheet, what you'll see is the masonry extending up on the 129 State Street side, coming up approximately 2 feet following the slope of the roof, with a copper coping at the top, step flashing in the adjacent roof.
Okay. So everybody, again, just to reiterate the obvious,
Yeah.
this is essentially the only sheet you're referring to in this potential approval or vote. There's no implied approval of any of the other changes that are shown on these mini sheets, just to be absolutely crystal clear.
Correct. We were
Yeah.
just talking about the
Yeah.
parapet that extends up
Yeah.
from 129 State Street's existing wall
Yep.
up through the roof.
I have a question, just out of curiosity. How are you finishing this wall next to the existing chimneys?
So as far as termination goes, I think in the elevations, it will kind of show you how both the chimney on the Sheaf Street side and the State Street side are integrated. Now, the chimney on State Street side actually sits upon both properties, so the parapet would butt to that. And same goes for the chimney on the Sheaf Street
Okay,
side.
all right. I was just curious, because, I don't know, didn't know if you would be putting anything in between for protection or anything like that, but that's fine. Okay.
Yes, Martin.
Typically, you'd put a sort of a masonry stone cap on this, and you're going with a very small sort of metal copper cap.
Yeah.
Not sure. No, I'm not too hung up on it, but I'm not too sure it's appropriate. And I'm not sure how it's going to be held down. I don't see any clipping system or anything. I mean, if it traveled down the wall just a little bit more, it could have a clip that's part of that last course, and that it could tie in. The constructability is probably what I'm getting hung up on.
Yeah, and I think what I'd like to do is I'd like Howard to step up here, and he can explain some of these details a little further for you.
We'll definitely be having a clip, the detail, we can revise it to show it better. It will come down at least an inch and then flare out. So that it will come down, the copper will come, bend under, and then the clip will go up and clip on top.
So it'll come down a little more than what's being shown right now?
Yes, and we can show, for when we have the working session, we can revise the detail and bring it.
Yeah, because if it came down and looked like a stone cap, I think it would probably look a lot better.
That's, we did the copper because we just thought it would be simpler and clean and minimize the view from the street. If we were open to the stone, we just thought the stone would make more of it, especially after when we watched the hearing, when the project is approved and there's a whole discussion of stone above the windows. We thought keeping it all in the brick with a thinner line of copper was more in keeping with the aesthetic of the historic structures.
Okay.
But we're also open to the stone. We can also do stone. It was just that we thought the copper was more in keeping.
Understood.
So I have a question, unless somebody else, did I see another hand? My question is concerning the roof flashing. You only show it on one side. How is that working?
That becomes part of the discussion at the working session with the details that come at that time.
I don't understand that.
Well, I think what I'm hearing is they're presenting the brick parapet design. It's seemingly obvious. You shouldn't vote on it tonight unless you have good answers to these questions like the flashing. If it's going to be discussed in the work session, it's going to be modified by the sounds of it. So
The detail,
The work session is next month.
well, you're right. So
there will be a flashing detail. There'll be a similar flashing detail on the 129 State Street side, but it depends if we get what's in the revised plans approved in the later hearings.
yeah,
That's fine.
let's get general agreement on the parapet tonight because that's a big step. It's a
Yeah.
big change,
Yeah.
even if it's not the final
Right.
vote.
And we can, in the next round, we can present the flashing details to approve the flashing details on 129 State Street side.
Yeah, and the
It'll
cap.
be basically in concept the same as on the 123 side. And the other thing, just to point out, it's unique in this location. 129 State Street has its own wall. It's not a party wall. 129 and 123 are two separate walls.
Okay, so I may have been in Spain when this was discussed.
think
Why
you
are
were.
why are we putting a parapet over this on this roof? I'm missing
Yeah,
that detail.
So I'll take a shot at it, but the three buildings that are connected all have a continuous asphalt roof. And what was approved for 129, conditioned on sorting this out, was a faux slate roof, which is going to be at a completely different height.
Okay,
So
so
it
we're
needs to
trying
be
to-
flashed in. We're trying to
Okay.
create a demising line.
Thank you.
This is how they're trying to solve it.
Thank you.
And-
Now I understand.
And another thing that's very important to us is even though we're going to have the parapet wall, we're always going to maintain the cornice line along State Street. So from when you stand on State Street and walk on State Street, the cornice line is going to be continuous. So from the street, you're going to see a continuous line. The parapet's pulled back a few inches so that you have the continuous line on the reading of the street, but the roofs are then separated by the parapet wall.
So one other question. What is this 12-inch existing wall that's underneath this parapet?
That's the party wall, that's the wall of the house. So the 129 State Street has independent walls from 123. And
So that
123
is an old wall,
Firewall.
a firewall from 1810 or 20 or whatever, 30.
Yeah, pull it hard there. Yeah. Just don't touch the screen. Yeah.
This wall here
Yes,
is the wall of the house
yeah.
of 129. This line here represents the wall of 123.
Okay.
So it's not a party wall, they're two separate walls,
Okay,
Two masonry walls?
two masonry walls.
Okay.
okay.
You can also, if you go by the street and you look from State Street and She Street, you can see 1/8 inch to 3/16 inch line going the whole height of the building, and you'll notice there's two different brick patterns.
I get it. I just, I'm wondering if there's any evidence that you might have seen that there was a parapet at one time here. I can't for the life of me, after the great fires that Portsmouth had, why there wasn't parapets in between these individual houses. Has anybody seen in there crawling around up there?
I don't believe there was any evidence after spending some time in that attic space that the wall had ever extended above the roof.
But you were only on your wall, not the other side, right? The other
Correct.
side might have had a parapet.
Correct.
You might have.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that's interesting is the chimneys are shared, but they tend to be a portion on 129 and they're a bit deeper on 123. So it might have been that 129 was built first and then 123 and 125 were built later.
Just being curious, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. So would anybody in the public like to speak on this?
Do we know what kind of brick that is, Shane? Sorry, did it get asked?
Huh?
The brick choice is probably important.
Yeah.
Correct.
I don't want yellow brick.
We would provide a sample or a match to the existing brick, and we would do that upon cleaning the existing masonry, because as you all know from our site visit, the State Street and the side that looks out to the garden was certainly painted at some point in time. So to expose, the true color and complexion of the brick, then we would then be able to find a match.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yes, members of the public.
Thank you. My name is Mark Bodie, and I reside at 121 State Street. And unlike Shane, I'm not happy to be here tonight. And I want to talk about two issues. The reason I'm not happy is, one, the process that this project has followed. We started off with an architect from Nantucket. It went back and forth, sideways, up and down. We discussed a faux ocular, and then moved to a faux parapet. I walked the city and I conveyed to Nick there is not one faux parapet in the city, not one. That being said, our association moved to accommodate Mr. Doyle because in your original approvals, you made that contingent upon our coming to an arrangement regarding our deck, which was connected to his building, as well as the roof. And when Mr. Doyle gave me assurances that he was going to change the parapet so that it would be only on his property, I found that that was certainly appropriate, and I had no basis for objection. Now, from that period in which it was originally approved, almost 2 years ago, and there's only one person to blame for this, and I would tell Bill Doyle if he was here. He had an opportunity to communicate with our association and the neighbors about what his plans were regarding the deck and the utilities, and they failed to do it. They waited until the 11th hour. The 11th hour. And then it resulted in our having to scurry to engage in discussions, come to an agreement, which in reflection, I almost feel as though it was under distress. We learned yesterday that this plan has been submitted while simultaneously they are ripping down the back of that addition, the previous addition. So now we are faced with the prospect that there is no approved plan, contrary to the fact that Bill communicated to me that he was anxious to move forward and get an agreement signed so he could begin the construction process prior to the tourist season. So now we are looking at what looks like a condemned building, and I certainly would invite you to go down there and take a look at it. Okay? And so the process, was it appropriate? In my view, it didn't reflect, I think, the intentions that were represented here, that we would be informed along the way and our opinions would be valued and would express those of the community, which is an important part of the HDC. Now let me move on.
I would just like to say that we are essentially talking about the parapet.
Well, if I might, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
those plans were submitted with the intention of discussing those other issues tonight. And my position is they were submitted and communicated to the public. And I believe we have the right to speak to those. Mr.
About the
Spivak
parapet.
has come from New York, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I am just saying that this meeting is, and the members of the public are speaking about the parapet. So if you have...
Mr. Chairman, that's not how it was presented. It's not how it was presented to the public.
Oh, this is not how it's presented right here, the public hearing? It is.
No, sir,
All right.
there's also an agenda that's attached to the program that has 18 to 20 different items.
Give him 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to
5
ask
minutes.
that
5
you...
minutes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I want to speak now, and I'd like to go to the drawings that were submitted and put them on the screen for, that were submitted as part of this application, so I may speak to those. And if not,
I think it makes sense you just speak to them. I mean,
Okay.
they're not,
Nick, I have enormous respect for you.
Yeah?
And Mr. Chairman, had it not been for your question regarding the parapet, they would have sought approval for that tonight. That's an important point. But let me speak about the new design. Mr. Spivak is an accomplished architect. He's from New York City. All of his architecture is modern. He's conveyed on his Facebook page the interior that he envisions for this 200-year-old building. The interior doesn't concern you. But the design that he is proposing reflects this contemporary design that he wants. All of the glass, all of the skylights, and, the best input that they could receive as a work session is to commit to meeting with the neighbors and understanding the HDC requirements. New York City land preservation was created in 1963 after they ripped down Penn Station. And I'm sure Mr. Spivak is very familiar with the historic buildings in New York. And I would represent this design would not be approved in New York City in a historic area. So with that, I'm going to conclude my remarks, but I ask the board for vigilance on this project and take into fully account, as you are obligated to do on a fiduciary basis, the concerns of the neighbors, which are significant and need to be heard fully and need to be reflected as presented in the rules that are provided for the HDC. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You must understand that they're going to have a work session next month, and you will be able to speak at that work session also. Yes.
Good evening, Chairman Wyckoff and Commissioner members. You've all heard me speak regarding this Marie Bodie, 121 State Street, part of the 121-123 Condo Association. And it is only because of my professional life that our neighborhood has learned about these plans that became public record. As you know, my agenda items 11 and 12 are on your meeting packet this evening. To get a light for a sign, I had to submit 5 documents with a letter of authority from the owner of our company to represent for an administrative approval. We have a multi-million-dollar property in a historically significant neighborhood. You have heard our concerns from day one about massing, about all sorts of things. Again, if not for my presence at many of the meetings that we were not aware were occurring, we would not know that their original plan claimed that they were going to remove vinyl siding, when in fact they were going to demo the building that they've demoed yesterday and today. Margot, you pointed out, how are they going to excavate? Again, I invite you to come to Sheaf Street and see the massive hole that they've created. Every development site in Portsmouth, when they've done something like this, would have fencing around it,
God help us if a child falls in there. It's over 6 feet deep tonight. So I think it's important to speak because I came here tonight thinking that the process was going to work, that we were here for what seems to be a very nefarious submission for yet another potential, oh, the neighbors don't know, oh, nobody's going to speak to this. This plan, and I'm sorry, Nick, and I do respect you as well, but you can't take away what you've put on the public website. Again, last month I tried to get these signs, these lights, into the agenda. I had to jump through hoops because I'd missed the deadline. I wasn't aware of it. These folks have been working on this parapet, which again was a part of the stipulation that our roofs come together properly. Let me tell you, you've said that this meeting has been continued for months. We have plans in your packet that were presented by the new architect dated April 19th that have this parapet detail. We, as an association, were, as my husband said, kind of wrangled at the last minute to sign an agreement on May 11th that we agree with the parapet, and in relation to that, we would alleviate a utility easement that we have shared in the past. So they had the knowledge that they had with the architect that they had in April of this year. They could have submitted for the May meeting. Instead, they've been working on all these new plans and coming before you tonight. If we weren't present, I'm not sure what you would have done. I would assume in your best of intentions, you would have looked at these plans and said, what are you crazy, like we all thought. But I can't assume that, so I'm bringing it to your attention. There have been so many misrepresentations. Again, I stated at the last meeting in March, I was here for a professional presentation. My professional owner, we submit plans in accordance with what is required. We have to bring samples. We have to provide detail. For this gentleman to step up this evening and say, we're going to have some clips and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. How can you trust what they are presenting to you? How can you approve? And I'm sorry that they decided to excavate and remove that structure, and maybe now they won't be able to start their project for another month, another 2 months, another 3 months. I don't care. It is in your purview to do the right thing. I pray that you will, and I am appalled that they thought that they could come to a work session tonight. Just turn a public hearing into a work session when it was not advertised, and for you all to have even potentially considered it at the beginning, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak on this, please? Anyone else? Nick, anyone online?
Hang on. No.
No. All right. So I'm going to close this public hearing. I almost feel like I should read this public hearing notice again, but permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure, add masonry parapet, as per plans. I want everyone to know that any other details that might have been put into our packet were not advertised, and we immediately took those out. So they have been removed, and they will be discussed at a work session next month. I'm looking for a motion, please. Yes, Martin?
Well, given that the parapet still has some issues unresolved, I don't see a reason to even decide on anything tonight.
I agree with Mark.
I just feel that there's too much up
What
in the
are
air.
the issues, Martin?
Well, the cap.
The coping depth,
The coping and the
the
cap.
flashing
So-
and the brick. I just wrote it down.
I'd be more comfortable if we took a step back and really got it completely under on the same page and looked at it from there. Instead of just, suppose what you're proposing affects the parapet, then you're back to square one. So I would prefer that we
Postpone.
postpone.
Okay, and Margot, you agree?
I agree.
I
All right.
agree.
Oh, so we have some agreement on that, so I guess what I need is a different.
I just want to
Yes,
say
Nick.
something to that. I mean, what was advertised is only the brick parapet. I think it makes complete sense for you to defer, given the conversation and the outstanding issues, that item. The applicant's got to refile this application. They have to decide whether it's a work session or a public hearing, or both. That's for them to decide. The parapet should be part of that application, as it is in what was submitted in the last 10 days. So I don't know that you could continue this, discontinue it. It's meaningless that we have two public hearings, one for a parapet and one for everything else, when the parapet is integral to the bigger picture. But they have to decide whether they're going to ask for a work session or a public hearing or both when they refile, and it'll get advertised for all these things that are in what was submitted recently. So I don't think you need to vote this up or down. You can,
Should we just close it?
they could withdraw it.
No, we could continue it.
Well, you could, yeah, but what do you want to do, Shane?
Motion to continue.
Given the circumstances here, I think I'd just like to continue the dialogue just a little further with the board, if you'd be amenable.
Okay.
If you can give me a little feedback on some more of the details you would need to allow you to vote.
On the parapet?
On the parapet.
Well, I think you heard the coping depth, or the way it's clipped in, the flashing being shown on both sides.
It's very, very simple.
Yeah, and the brick sample, when you've got a brick clean, what brick you're using. I mean, those three were at least mentioned. There might have been other components.
Sorry, excuse me, just a quick question. Is the board comfortable with the copper, or do you want us to explore the stone coping?
Yeah. I think, yeah.
I'm fine with the copper,
Agreed.
simplified.
So we'll bring in a sample of the copper, we'll show more detail on that, and then Shane's going to arrange for clearing a section of brick so we can match the brick.
If we could also just see how it terminates at the very end, that would be helpful as well.
We'll show you a detail of how it can, we'll be happy to show a detail how it comes to the brick chimneys and and we'll do a rendering 3D model that shows you all the conditions.
Beautiful.
Very good.
So here's a suggestion for everybody. Last one.
Yes.
Given there might be a remote likelihood that all the other changes don't come back, let's keep this alive, because it may be all you have next month. It's what everybody expected you'd be here with, is simply the brick parapet. Why don't we continue that in case there isn't, if there's a retreat on the other components? They don't have to re-advertise for this, given what's been said here tonight. So a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
I'll second it.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? So, more detail.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, where
I
am I?
have to recuse myself actually for the next two. I can't be
Next
Portsmouth-
two.
I can't do Portsmouth Housing Authority.
Okay. So Commissioner Rudig is recusing herself from public hearings 1 and 2. So public hearing 1 is petition of Portsmouth Housing Authority, owner for property located at 444 Pleasant Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to existing structures, replace windows on both structures. As per plans on file in the planning department, said property is shown on Assessor Map 102 as Lot 54, lies within General Residence B and Historic Districts. And who is here to present this? Rather large project. Nobody.
This is the window? Wait.
Yeah.
Yes, all we have is the
Yeah,
windows
all the stuff.
schedule.
Which one are you doing, 444?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were here last meeting, yeah. And I think the window schedule,
Is it every single window, just
believe
the
it is,
window
yeah.
on the facade?
I think they've got a window in here for every opening, but.
For the time being, Mr. Chairman, could we move this to the end of the agenda?
Yeah.
Certainly. So we need a motion to move that to the
Yep.
end of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So if you're listening on TV, get over here. Okay, number 2, petition of Torrington Brown LLC and Single Venture LLC owners for property located at 132-134 Middle Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior renovations to an existing structure. Repair rotted trim, repair roof, repoint bricks, replace gutters, as per plans on file in the planning department. Said property is shown on Assessor Map 127 as Lot 12, lies within Character District 4-L1 and Historic Districts. And who is here to present this?
Good evening, Tracy Kozak with Arcove Architects, here on behalf of the applicant. Also here with me is the owner's representative, Greg Michaelides. If there are any questions, I brought samples. I will walk you through the packet. Please interrupt with any questions. In general, this is a major deferred maintenance repair project, replacing and repairing in kind and we've included everything here because the scope is quite extensive. The building needs a lot of work, mostly the masonry and some of the brownstone in particular. You're familiar with this. I think you've seen this project recently in other hands. But we're here specifically because under your purview, there's a replacement of the roofing material and a replacement, a rebuild of the front steps, which have fallen apart. And we're adding back some wrought iron railings to match what was there originally. And that is a summary.
I think it's kind of important to, if anybody is listening, that we discuss the fact that this has gone through our board 4 or 5 different times. So I think we're all pretty familiar with this building.
So yeah, the biggest thing is the steps. The brownstone, as you know, doesn't hold up well in this climate, and it has chipped and spalled and disheveled and fallen apart. So we're proposing to keep the side walls, the cheek walls of the stoop, but just replace the treads and risers with a colored concrete, of which I have a sample, custom colored to match the brownstone. So this is the custom colored concrete. This is a chip of the brownstone.
We see it?
Happy to pass this around.
Thank you.
Same profile as existing.
So this is a pretty standard way of replacing brownstone.
Yeah, and so the colored concrete is the brownstone replacement only on the steps. We're not doing that on the face of the building. The face of the building is a brownstone mortar patch repair. We have the specs and cut sheets at the back of the packet, and there's also a photo in the front here that shows a test. We did a test patch.
Tracy, one of the big discussions and one of the big holdups last time was the question of the slate at the top. Given that there were 2 different designs, some asphalt roofing that had been put in at one point, and whether or not the trim along the corners would be mirrored and replaced. So if you could address that, please.
Absolutely. On the next page or 2. Right, so the 2 sides of the building, the right side has the original, we can tell the original slate. It has the wood plinth boxes and the wood hip coverings. We are proposing to repair and rebuild where they're missing the wood hip caps and the plinths on the front. On the front, there are 4 hips on the front facing the street. There are 4 hips on the back of the main structure facing the back, with which we would propose copper flashing facing the rear of the property. But the front would be restoring the existing wood trim that is there and replacing it on the left side where it was removed a number of years ago. The left side, as you recall, has currently asphalt shingles. The slate is long gone. So we're proposing a synthetic slate EcoStar Majestic in a beaver tail curved profile. It's not a perfect semicircle, but it is rounded. And there are two color options. The applicant would prefer to matte. Right now, the front has red and gray stripes. The back, though, is all gray. So they would like to do the whole thing in red and gray stripes, but there is a second alternative, not their first choice, but if you want to do all gray, that's fine too. I'll pass these around.
Tracy, while you walk back, it looks like on the screen there, the faux slates on the left are narrower than the one on the right, and the one on the right looks like what you handed out. Do they make them to look more like the fish scales than something that probably doesn't exist?
The samples that are going around are the exact product for both color schemes.
So that one up there on the left has simply been squished somehow?
I think it's just scaled differently in the photo. They're not both, they're both the same. They would both be the same size, whichever color we go with.
Tracy, the sidewalls on the front steps, are those concrete?
No, they are existing, I believe they're existing granite, and we're not changing those.
That's not brownstone, huh? I thought it was.
It's a different color and texture than the steps.
Yeah, that's brownstone.
Is it brownstone?
Yeah,
Is it brownstone?
It is.
Yeah.
So that's in good shape.
It is in good shape. Yeah, we're not touching that.
You'll never see that.
We'll clean it. We're putting new railings.
Yeah, I guess it's got red.
We have details of those in the packet.
Yeah.
You can't.
That's amazing if that's in such good shape. Yeah.
Rough
But it doesn't get the wear.
And Tracy, the nosing and all that, and there's a little bit of trim under the nosing and all that in kind?
Well, let's ask.
Yes, to match the existing. Cast in place.
So somebody has brought up an interesting question. Why is this EcoStar rounded and all of the other ones that we have seen in the past are the 45s off on the corners?
Well, no, they're rectilinear. They're 90 degrees on the corner. We haven't.
They offer a variety of shapes in this. This is the Majestic line, so it's 'cause they have pointy, square, octagonal, beaver tail.
So I would just have a question. In the 19th century, would you ever see a shingle that looks like this? I just wonder if we're trying too hard to get something that doesn't work, and whether that would be better at 90 degrees like you would routinely see in the 19th century, given it's a focal building. I'm just throwing that out there.
Are we
Seems like a big
suggesting,
departure from what you would have seen on a building of this vintage.
are we suggesting that what you see for scallop shape are not original?
No, I'm suggesting the scallop fish scale shingles are about this wide.
Oh, gotcha.
And this probably doesn't exist anywhere in the United States in the 19th century for a shape. So it may be fine 3 stories in the air, but it's going to be something that is not authentic to the building or any other mansard from the 19th century. And you're talking about a focal building. What you normally see is either the fish scales or a rectilinear shingle. So I'm just...
Sure.
Does this bother anybody else?
The scale of the shingle is the issue. These slates are, we'll call them that,
Big.
panels, whatever, are wider. And to get a full half round out of them, it means that the half round part, because it's wider, the cutout goes higher, which ultimately exposes the roof to the potential for leakage in high wind conditions. The slates that are currently there are much smaller slates, and therefore the radiuses are smaller, and the overlaps are tighter. So the question really is the scale of this slate to the existing material. We have a handful of scalloped slate roofs in town. They all seem to be from this same period. They all seem, at least to my recollection, be a much smaller tile size than this. So are we, the question you're asking is, are we making a mistake by trying to make a funny shaped tile but losing the scale of it altogether and thinking we're doing a good job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably be the only one in New England.
So we're having a little trouble with the size and the scale.
I will add that if we go with the square corners, it is available 2 inches narrower than this one. So that's a 12-inch wide. They have they don't offer it narrower in the rounded shape, but you can get the square shape 10 inches wide.
Yeah.
So about like that.
What's the measurement of the current ones there?
12.
12.
Oh, no, the one you have is 12. The
On the
existing
ones
on the
on the
roof.
6?
I have not
Oh,
been
no,
up
they're
there.
not
I-
six.
They're 5?
No, they're not 5.
I'm going to guess them at 8, but it could, I could.
Probably
They could be 8 to
8.
10. They're 8 to 10 inches wide,
Yeah.
these now. Yeah, they're not 6.
So it seems we're getting stuck on the same thing that got us stuck last time, which is a very, very important detail of an important building with which is now rare in town. And so this is not a change to be made lightly.
Yeah. Okay, you have other changes that,
Yes.
okay. So I think we're going to ask you to come back with more info on the slates. Yeah. Actually, it was this part right here that gave us a lot.
Yeah.
Didn't want to rebuild.
The ironwork, that's all going to be wrought iron?
It's custom wrought iron.
Excellent.
And we've, the detailed drawing, that's what's there now, is put in mid-20th century. They're different on either side. The one in the middle is missing. There's evidence on the bottom plinth stones that it was there were 4 bolts hanging, anchoring the post. And there's one section of original fence on the left side of the building which has the 4 bolted posts. So we're going to replicate that post detail at the bottom of each of the 3 cheek walls. The cheek wall in the middle just has a handrail, not the pickets and the scrolls. The ones on the sides have the pickets and the scrolls to match the existing detail of the fence. The only difference is the fence on the road just has the picket points open at the top, and we're putting a cap rail along the top so you don't hurt yourself. We're fastening it into the cheek wall and the plinth. The railings that are there now, unfortunately, at the top, they were bolted into the brownstone, which led to further brownstone damage. There's a new fence on the front edge of the property on the right side. Currently, it's asphalt, no fence, and garbage cans. That will be landscaped. The garbage cans moved out back with a new wrought iron fence in front.
Tracy, the modern cement side entrance over which you're going to be doing some roof work, what's going to happen with the old steel aluminum rail?
Zero
and the cement?
changes to anything out back, just being, if it's loose, it will be secured. If it needs cleaning or painting, it will be cleaned and painted.
Okay.
Similarly, the windows are just being reputtied if there's missing cracked putty, cleaned, not replaced. Nothing else is being replaced. The gutters are being replaced. I brought samples of that. You're asking about copper gutters before. There is a difference. The gutter profile is the same as in the packet, but the downspout, we'd like to go to a round instead of the rectangle that's there. It's just mill finish copper. The hangers, got all the accessories here.
Yeah,
Tracy,
Flashing.
that's a kit.
will the gutters follow the existing pattern of the gutters down the side of the building? So exactly where they're placed now, or will they be moved in any way?
The downspouts, well, some are missing. I will say there's On the driveway side on the right, you can see a hole coming down through the soffit where there used to be a gutter. So we'll put one back there in the corner, but not proposing any new
I
locations.
was looking specifically
that.
at the two doorways because they're so prominent. The way the gutters frame the doorway right now, that it's not symmetrical. One's kind of going this way, one's going that way, one's a little bit more to the right, one's a little more to the left. Cleaning that up so that they bend the same way, or are you going to replace them the way they are right now?
What's really funny is
let's
the
take a
downspout
look.
for the doorways used to be actually inside against the sidewall of the building in between the two doors. The brackets are still there
there?
for
Yeah.
that.
Wow,
So it drained internally rather than externally,
yeah.
which is probably why it's in that remarkably good condition that it's in right now. They used to do hidden gutters back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, we could go either way.
I just think it's pretty ugly, these things sort of tacked on the outside of the brownstone. Any
Over the corners.
recommendation or suggestion you have to clean it up and make the lines a little cleaner would be appreciated.
Okay, yep, agreed.
So, I mean, the left one makes the turn up higher and then comes straight down. Right?
Yeah.
And the right one makes the turn right at that little shelf.
Different. This one goes
Gee,
this
that's
way, this one
different.
goes that way.
Oh, they're both different.
This one lines up, this one comes out.
Obviously, they were replaced and repaired at different times.
Possibly they do.
I would just like to ask you how, looking at the downspouts there, how are you going to repair the brownstone, that, the blocks that are part of the foundation, or maybe it's a veneer, I don't know. But,
At the bottom of the cheek
yeah,
wall.
I mean, it looks really deteriorated. Part of the job?
If you're looking at the top right photo on page 4, that's at the top of the stair where they fastened the railing into the brownstone ledge. Yeah, that's like one of the worst spots for the brownstone wreckage. That will be repaired with the patch.
So you have a contractor who repairs brownstone?
Yes.
Or will?
And there is a photo of a test of 2 different colors. It's kind of trial and error to get the perfect match in color. You can see it on the right side of page 6, and then there's a close-up.
Number,
On,
I just don't see it.
towards the end.
Way, almost at the bottom there. Second to last page, third to last.
Yes, second, page 25. There are 2 colors here, K8 and K10. K10 is way too dark, won't be using that. K8 is a touch dark. The objective is to get a perfect match by using the color blends that are needed.
K10, K8. Oh, thank you very much. You know, somebody's done a little homework on this. Thank you. So it sounds like you were really committed to a nice restoration on the front of this property.
It's primarily a masonry exercise, given the amount of work that's needed on the, the brick's not so bad, it's just the brownstone is a whole nother thing. And, yeah, it's being undertaken with a custom reproduction effort. So with everything, the custom matched brownstone and the wrought iron and the copper, and trying to get as best of a close match as we can with the roofing shingles as well. Thank you for your input and guidance.
All right.
Hey, Tracy, not to beat a dead horse here, but looking at EcoStar's marketing material, all these shingles at the very top of this cone are much narrower and more aligned with the existing character of the building than the stuff at the bottom. So be curious whether this was just a Photoshop thing on their part or whether they actually sell the top half of the cone. Anyway.
It looks like they custom scaled all of
Yeah.
the pieces.
You'd have to, right? Yeah.
We could, we could arrange to reshape them,
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's worth asking.
We could put up a ladder and you could go up and measure the width of those existing.
Actually, I was thinking I could probably lean out a window on the third floor a lot easier, but I'd certainly be interested in doing that. I'm very concerned about getting this building right. I do understand the challenges of trying to get it done as a repair project with modern materials and the challenges that you're facing, because when this was built, no one had an eye toward what they were going to do in the future. And that's a damn shame, and that's why it looks like this now. Got it. I think what you're proposing sounds terrific, and I can't imagine anyone in the commission having any issues other than wishing you well. But at the same time, I'd hate to think that there were a couple of subtle little things that we missed when we have an opportunity to get it better.
Let's just,
Would-
other
would-
questions?
Would we benefit from an elevation that puts the properly scaled coursing? I mean, it's just it wouldn't take long to draw something like that up. You look at it in orthographic projection, every little slate shown, and see if that kind of scaling is appropriate or not.
Yeah, I think really what we should probably do is, at this time, is take the roof out,
Sure.
to be brought back to us. And we could essentially vote on the brownstone repairs and the steps and things and allow them to get started.
Do you have a preference on the color of the roofing?
Yeah, we didn't,
The multi,
As best as possible, I'm sure,
multicolored.
what's there.
yeah, I like the multicolored.
Yeah, I like That's nice. The stripe
Okay.
is good.
Okay.
Yeah. Not 25 Maplewood multicolored. but,
No.
Yeah, let's be clear. We tried that.
What happened?
Match the existing, yeah.
Thank you. Any
Okay,
questions?
is there anybody in the public would like to speak on this?
No one out there? Hang on.
No one in your little box?
No one online.
No one online?
No one online.
So I'm going to close this public hearing, and I look for a motion referencing the roof, probably.
I'll make a motion to, get myself ready here. Make a motion to approve with stipulations that the roof come back to us.
Yeah, okay. The shingle design
Yeah.
Yes.
and roof details.
Yeah,
Yes.
all that stuff.
That we approve what is proposed for the railings, for the gutters, for the downspout systems, for the repairs to the sandstone.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor,
Okay.
say aye.
Do we need
Finding of
findings
facts?
facts?
Oh, findings of facts, very,
Um,
very correct.
This fits within the context of the surrounding architecture, and it is in keeping with, Ms. Reagan here, in keeping with the character of the historic district.
Do you have anything to add, Mark?
Just relation to historic and architectural value of the existing structure, I think is the exact wording you might have been looking for.
Okay,
Sure.
so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And against? So there you go, you have it.
I should have given you this, sorry.
I know, that's what I was looking for.
Those are parts.
Thank you, Tracy.
I didn't see it.
All right, so now the petition of Sean and Michio Bardon, owners for property located at 39 Dearborn Street, wherein permission is requested to allow exterior construction to an existing structure, replace existing roofing structure, add a new side and entry additions. As per plans on file in the planning department, said property is shown on Assessor Map 140 as Lot 3 and lies within the general residence A and historic districts. And there again, this is something that we have looked at for a while. And so who's here to present this?
Good evening. My name is Amy Dutton. I'm representing Sean Amicio Bardong. I live in Portsmouth and work out of Kittery. Thank you for your help and guidance over the last several months. I'm happy tonight that we're in a public hearing, and hopefully we can move forward. Just to back up, because this is a public hearing, the existing house is a historic cape dating somewhere around 1700 with an existing kitchen that is forward towards the water. And it does have an existing little mudroom that's sort of falling down. So in our proposal, we are proposing that the mudroom be replaced by a glass breezeway that connects to a low short colonial, and as well as a small bump out for a mudroom off the existing kitchen. So in our work sessions, we have landed here to this addition that does house modern living. On the first floor is family room with a staircase to a primary suite on the second floor. The existing, right now, there are existing doors to the kitchen, and that has French doors, and so we're replicating those in the colonial as well as in the mudroom bump out. And then there will be 3 windows above that. Those are replicating the 3 windows in the existing windows in the kitchen. That's the kitchen sink. The windows, we did change the scale from our last work session, that the windows are actually all smaller on the first and second floor, and actually larger on the gable end. I think there was some comment and conversation about that. And the windows, we did discuss the 2 windows that you're seeing here in the mudroom addition. Those are the exact same size as the kitchen gable, the kitchen windows on the other end, as well as the windows in the existing dining room. The windows in the existing house on the second floor will be replaced for egress windows, and on the first floor in the dining room, those will also be new. So you can see on the window, it's not really a full window schedule, but just showing you we're using the Marvin Elevate windows. The other significant thing that we did was to take off the chimney that was on the right, that I think most of us felt like was out of scale, out of throwing kind of pretty much everything off. So we just removed that and went with a gas fireplace. And lastly, we did change the size of the well egress. That doesn't really impact this board, but nevertheless, just so you know, that did happen. We did receive approval from Board of Adjustment. I guess it was, I don't know when, a couple weeks ago. It's kind of a blur between all the meetings, but since we've last seen you, we did receive BOA approval. So all of that has been approved, meaning the chimney and the window well. So regarding materials, we are proposing, for the most part, to primarily match what is existing on the Cape, and just as far as scale goes, and mostly it's the kitchen that we're replicating. The existing Cape does have vinyl siding, so we're proposing that would be removed, and we will be going with hardy. And I have samples of that. And then where you see shakes, where you see shingles, those will be Maybeck, and both will be painted to match each other. And then the historic sills on the historic Cape will be replicated in anything new in the addition. And the other thing that I wanted to point out about the windows, just going back a little bit, is the existing historic Cape will be a 2/1, and then we'll go with a 6/1 on anything that's more considered modern living. Just to more or less highlight the Cape more, as well as like a different siding. And then we are proposing AZEK trim and panels. So in the connector, there would be raised panels underneath the windows, and that would all be AZEK, no siding in that connector. I think that might be all I have. I'm sure you have questions.
Questions, comments? Yep.
I'll just say thank you for all the work on this.
Yeah.
And thank you to the owners for working with us on getting this through. I think this is a much more successful sort of end game that we've reached since the very beginning. And I think that it's all going to work really well and be much more appropriate. Again, I appreciate that the Cape is still there and it's still visible, and you'll get all of the things that you need in the new construction. My only concern, and I think everything, I don't really have any major problems. My only question is the windows in that connector piece. I understand that the language you're going for with the 6/1s being all the new stuff, but those are really narrow.
Narrow. Mm-hmm.
And so to me, they look weird. I think you could probably go with 2/1 or even 2/2 there or something to break it up a little bit. I don't know what. Well, you could shorten them, but I know that you're trying to make it glassy and see-through, which I don't have a problem with, being that it's new. So I don't know what you think about.
I don't have any problem with, I can just draw it on. I think it would look better with 2/1 or 4/1. I would hesitate a little bit to introduce too many styles, but I think 2/1 looks better. The mullions get really, really tight.
Yeah, your pieces of glass are going to be
Tiny.
really tiny.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Anyone over on this side here?
If you don't mind, I've two little issues, the same issue twice. Under your double doors, shown on page A10 and on A9, you have, in both images, you have double doors and you have shingles placed underneath the thresholds of the doors, which seems like a silly thing to do, a dangerous place to put them. You can shake your head, but they're drawn as shingles. And that's an obvious opportunity for a solid piece of material. If you're using AZEK for your material, then I would put that there. It'll be more durable, more watertight, and I think provide a better, in quotes, look for the door assembly.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. But no, I want to thank the applicants for being very patient and working with us. It's been a long, many nights in this room, which I appreciate. But I think we've kept the story of the old house and we've given, a nice big livable space that we can enjoy, your new home. But yeah, I agree with Reagan on the, I think 2x1s would match the windows above it there on that little bump out. And then agree with Commissioner Ryan's comments as well.
Thank you.
Yes, Margot.
You said you changed the windows, and I've been going back and forth between the May presentation and this presentation. Unless I'm reading the schedule wrong, it appears the same windows are circled between these two. Did you change them at a different time, or did you change them between these two?
Between these two meetings, they're each one is a tiny bit smaller. It's just like 2 inches. And I could have easily circled.
Yeah, I just went by the code underneath each one, and they appeared to be the same. So if we could just have that clarified.
Hold on just a second. W7 and 1314. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm sorry, you're referring to the pages?
Oh, window 7.
Well, I was just looking at sheet A6 and the items that you had circled and comparing that to the same sheet from the month before. And the numbers that are circled are all the same. And I took that to mean they were the same.
I probably didn't update that.
Okay.
That's my mistake. My
So if we
apologies.
could just have that clarified.
Noted which one.
administratively.
It's actually, both of
Say it
those are the
again,
windows
please.
up.
Okay. So it appears that we have the wrong window schedule.
Okay. So modify
So
the
we'll
window
need
schedule.
the new window schedule to be
Yep.
signed off on.
Yes.
I would just agree with some of the comments that this did get better as we went forward, and I think you've been massaging it and improving it. One thing that's always bothered me, and it's an existing condition, and I take no objection to, I approve this, and so I think here's your opportunity to fix that flat spot in the existing house, or that double door entrance at the French door entrance. If I were you, I'd try to improve the water, the constructability of that, the waterproofing of that. Don't create a snow
Yep.
collection area.
Yep.
And do that in a way that's, you don't have to do much. Just kind of slope it away from that back wall.
Yep. Even with like a 1 pitch.
And if you can do something architecturally better with it, all the better.
Yeah.
But it's a good project, and I like the fact that you took the chimney away. That was problematic, and good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to ask members of the public if they have some opinions on this. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak to this project?
Out online.
Nobody online either? Okay, so I'm going to close this public hearing. That was
Your Honor,
better.
I move that we approve the following application as submitted.
With the
With
stipulation that the
Yes.
final window schedule be submitted for administrative approval.
What Nick said.
Seconded.
Findings of fact, I believe this is, purpose intent is conservation enhancement of property values and consistent with special and defining characters of, compatibility with the design of surrounding properties.
That's good. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? All right, so you have your approval. You're welcome. Okay, now we have another work session.
No, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless somebody from 444 Pleasant Street has shown up.
Yes, that's true. Has anyone from 444 Pleasant Street arrived?
So let's
From
continue
the
that to
Portsmouth
next
Housing
week.
Authority, then
Continue it next week.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue it to June 14th.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Against? So that would be next week, is that correct?
Correct.
Right, okay. So I have a work session requested by JJCM Realty and LLC and Top Notch Properties LLC owners for property located at 232 South Street, wherein permission is requested to allow the new construction of a detached one-car garage. As per plans on file in the planning department, said property is shown on our assessor map 111 as Lot 2 and lies within single residence B and historic district. And I suppose we need to go down. Go. Bum, ba, bum.
Okay, cool. I didn't know who was the applicant.
How are you?
Hi, how are you? So this is very informal, but we do need an introduction.
I'm Gary Bolio, and I am 50%.
All right, here we go, right here.
My name is Gary Bolio.
Okay.
And I am 50% owner of that property at 232
All right.
South Street with JJCM Realty. And we've come before you to see what your thoughts might be and how you might respond to our request of adding a one-car detached garage to our property at 232 South Street.
All righty. Oh, there we have it up there.
There it is. The dimensions of that are 12 by 20.
Speak a little louder, Gary, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Nick, how are you?
Good.
Good. The dimensions of that building are 12 by 20. And there it is. You can see it is set back about 20 feet from the road. It's just be back where the
You
little
must
bit.
be about 25 there.
About 20. Oh, actually, Nick, you're good. I actually did measure it off the other day. It was about 26 feet, 27 feet, in fact.
Can you put the picture back up?
Yep.
Yeah, if we scale it, it was about 27 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. Enough to fit a car here and have the car behind the front building facade.
Correct.
Yeah.
So basically, you're proposing a structure that mimics some of the detail of the main house.
That's correct.
Same returns and eave lines and,
Correct. Same builders, same contractors will be doing, it'll be the same siding, same corners.
the door is a standard overhead roll-up
Well,
door.
we're actually trying to go a little fancy. There's a company out of Barrington, New Hampshire, that makes custom wooden doors, and the architect pointed me towards them. I'm not sure about the lead time in this economy, but they make beautiful doors, trying to mirror our front door. It's like a 3-panel, so it'd be a nice solid wood door to give it a kind of a nice
Will
touch.
it roll up or will they open out?
It'll be a roll-up. It'll be electric door. As far as I know, they can make that door do that from the weight and everything.
They actually do make opening and closing hardware for
that.
For opening doors like that.
And I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. It's kind of more period, if you would.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Better have your snow plowed before.
Because the doors are, yeah. And it plows the front of your garage for you.
Yeah, there we go.
Are you planning wood materials, AZAC, Boral? What sort of materials are you thinking right now?
Right now, we'll probably be using all wood. We'd be using like 5/4 or 6/4 on the, the corner boards and the water table, whatever, and pine, which is what we sided the structure with. 1x6 pine with about a 4-inch reveal.
And similar asphalt shingles?
Yes, to match.
Any other details you want to share?
No, really, kind of simple. Yep, yep.
Any windows on the side that we can't see?
No, there'll be just the one, because on the left side, it faces a row of arborvitaes, which is only about 24 inches, maybe 18 inches from it, and then the house is fairly tight, about 3 feet on the other side. We will have a door you don't see. I'm not sure if it,
On the right-hand side.
On the right-hand side.
yeah, going out the back, that'll lead you from the garage to the back porch onto your first floor unit.
Okay.
No matching window on the back or not?
You're going to want a window
No.
on the back?
Okay.
No,
Really?
pardon?
You don't want a window on the back?
Well, I think the door could be like a 9-light,
Yeah.
which would provide us, that's what I was kind of envisioning, a 9-light door in the back.
Any other comments, questions?
It looks like a textbook, this fits really well sort of thing. Whether or not this is, that it fits, it's a little tight, but the thing itself that he's proposing, I don't see any issues with it all. I imagine everyone feels the same way.
Yeah, it's very simple. It mimics the same cornice going on in the house. Yeah, very simple, straightforward.
I appreciate, at least as drawn, the trim that you have around the garage door. You seem to have a piece of 2x6 or 2x8 for the top casing on that door.
Yeah, a little bit of a header there, a little
Oh, yeah,
broad.
that's very nice. It's very appropriate. And then the side pieces will be let into it.
Correct,
And it'll be a very weather-tight
correct,
seal.
correct.
Spoken like a builder.
Well, we hire builders, we hope we'll
That's nice.
follow those, that template.
Yes, yeah, you really do.
But we're happy with the guys, because these guys had done the same, we had done that property over on Court Street, the pumpkin house, the orange house.
Oh, yeah.
And the same guys that did all that beautiful interior work that came out, big difference, same guys are doing the work here. So we trust they,
And you fixed the windows on the front of that building, or?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, at a great cost.
Hey, holy money.
That's what we said, that's what we said. But the truth, we worked closely with Nick on that. Nick had some great ideas. He came through several times. And the people that love it, love it. We had the guy that bought the first unit over there, he was just walking through from St. Louis on his way to Portland, stopped and walked by, saw the sign. We'll take it, literally. And then the other people were from Boston. They were trying to find something in the Northeast away from Boston where there was a third theater group for their son. Portsmouth fit beautifully for the son. They came up, looked at one house, that one. Who do I write the check to? So people that love them, And so we were lucky we had that, and we got a lot of great ideas from the board on that one. And that went well, and the people are still ecstatic that bought them.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I think the scale with the original house is fine, and I think the design fits well with it. The concern that I would have is how tight it is in that space. However, that's really not our purview, and there is certainly a lot of space in the back, so in terms of lot coverage, which again isn't technically our purview, but we do look at it. I see that the size in the back sort of mitigates that, so it is a little bit tight to that line, but that isn't really our say.
That's
So
correct.
I think we would say that this fits the general
Criteria.
requirements.
So, nothing else, then?
John, can I say something when you're done?
I was going to ask the public first, Nick.
All
Would
right,
you
go
want to
ahead.
speak now?
No, go ahead.
Would anyone in the public like to speak about this garage?
You have to go up there.
You have to come up
Go
to
to
the
the mic.
microphone. You have to introduce yourselves, too.
So the people
We're very
at home can-
formal.
You go to the podium, actually.
You can do either.
You can do
It's up to you.
whatever you want.
Whatever
You're
works.
comfortable with.
It's up to you. I'd listen
Just so
to
that
her.
people at home can hear you. And you have to use the microphones though if you're going to do either mic.
Either the
Pick a mic.
podium or sit down.
Yeah. It's all broadcast.
Yeah, be sure you got a microphone. Hi. introduce yourselves. Yeah.
I'm Christina Logan
Okay.
at 220 South Street with
Michael Graff at 220 South Street.
And Lori Kennedy at 244 South Street.
so on either side of this property.
You've got them surrounded.
Yes, they do.
So, one question I have is just procedural. Does the applicant plan to build this garage or just get approval for it and then try to sell the property with the approval?
I believe we're going to be building that. We've got people fairly interested in it right now with it built.
Okay. Our concerns aren't really about your, what you're looking at, but more about the proximity to the property line.
Yeah, let me guess, digging.
Well, sure. So we would need, this is a zoning issue, but we would need the building staked out and the overdig staked out and a detail on what the foundation is, so that we have an understanding of whether or not our arborvitaes will survive this. I realize that's not your issue. We appreciate that the applicant did come over and show us the
This
this
drawing.
image.
And I just explained, I just put in 20 arborvitaes in my home, so I know what you're dealing with the arborvitaes there. They're a little temperamental, and
Right.
we will learn to protect those.
Yeah, so when those went in, we had a neighbor there who agreed to putting them in. I think
Yeah, Vinny did.
Vinny even might have shared some cost on some
Yeah,
of them.
we put
but-
them in kind of together with the previous owner. And I think that, honestly, we were a little disappointed by the addition of this. I know it's not in your purview, but for what looks like just the saleability of a property where there was never a garage there, and it's just adding more building to, a little building that didn't have that before. I understand that our property has a garage that was existing and got improved upon, and then just packing another garage next to it, we have concerns about that. It wasn't a family that came to us to ask us this question.
I would say that there might have been a garage there, because back in the 1920s, when little garages like this, actually, it would have been smaller than this. But those things were just popped everywhere.
Yeah, they had a little outbuilding in the back.
Yeah. Hung and grew boards and all that sort of stuff. As
And
far
then
as your
just-
arborvitae's, I don't know for sure, but I think that it'll build this on the slab. So if that, then the excavation should only be 12 inches or something.
It's a sloped site, too, so there just needs to be, devil's in the details, what we've seen isn't really enough to either support it or to object to it, other than the fact that it's a 12-foot wide building in a pretty tight spot. So,
And then just the walk around, I don't know how anybody would walk. I guess you'd have to walk through the garage to get to the backyard. It doesn't look like there's any space between the
There's
buildings.
3 feet, it doesn't show it there, but there's 3 feet walkway between the garage and the porch, because the porch ends where you
Okay.
kind of see it on the right, so there's a
It's-
3-foot walkway, yes.
My concern, of course, I'm actually in the sister house. It was built about 10 years after my house, so it is a 1770 house. It couldn't have had a garage. It maybe at some point did, and it was a shed that was out back. So I'm more concerned about mass and how it affects me. My other concern is the property hasn't been finished to date, and there is still scaffolding up and has been up. The faux chimneys have not been completed. The trash is still flying into my yard and left on top of the roof, waiting for that to finish. So I do have a small problem with these very responsible, as he says, builders, but they're not completing the job, and they haven't done anything in about 3 months.
Was this the house that was open for a long time?
Yes.
For several years, yes.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. and-
Why was that, anyway?
I have no idea. I
That
really,
wasn't
I really
you.
don't know. No, that wasn't us.
Yes, it was
Yes,
you.
it was.
No, it
It was-
was
it was
vacant.
you.
We've owned it for 2 years now.
Yeah.
But it has been open for several years.
I thought
No.
it
We
was
sat on it for
years this November,
It was
right?
3
years,
years this
and you
November.
owned it.
So we've seen, a lot of, and we didn't go there on,
Yeah.
if we're opening up this can of worms, we've seen a lot of really substandard construction practice over there. There was debris on the side porch for probably 6 months until I went over and I put it inside the house because we were tired of looking at it.
And it was blowing onto our property. and-
There was a toilet on the side lot, stuff that was left over from the pumpkin house renovation that just came over and got piled on the porch. The door was wide open.
And our electricity was used in order to pump out
So
the.
we want to be good neighbors.
But we've never been approached until now through all this, almost 3 years of construction.
Yeah, well, I'm
So
sorry about
it's
that.
hard to have faith in a beautiful little garage being built that is being presented to you. I don't see it yet. I want this neighborhood to be.
In all fairness to what you're saying, that we didn't start it for about a year and a half after you owned it with the COVID going on. We couldn't find any contractors. Even if we did, we'd get them for a month. They would go somewhere else, come back in 2 months. And these were local Portsmouth guys, electricians and plumbers that are very well respected in the city. The plumbers are, when the inspectors come in, they all said you had very nice
We
guys doing them.
understand, we're
Yeah,
also.
it was rough. Yeah.
I would just like to say, if this gets approved and voted on, then they have to build it exactly the way that it is presented to us, or he will not get his occupancy permit, which means he won't be able to sell it, he won't be able to rent it, he won't be able to do anything with it without an occupancy permit. So that's what I'd like to say.
Is the cobblestone part of your purview?
It usually is.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to
Mr.
talk about.
Cracknell would like to speak to that.
Mr. Cracknell, would you like to speak?
I would. Gary wasn't hard to convince, but that was an idea I encouraged him to look at. We did a building on Walton Street, meaning these folks, recently with a cobblestone driveway, also encouraged by myself and others, as part of a small garage being added to that property. This doesn't read yet as cobblestones, it reads as pavers to me that are tumbled concrete pavers. So one of the questions I had, not that this type of surface is inappropriate, but I think if you go with a high-quality concrete paver, you probably need a granite cobblestone Belgian block edge and maybe even an apron up against the sidewalk. And the other thing I'd say is I think hopefully all your bricks aren't laid like that. I think they're better 90 degrees than going in the way they show on that drawing. So,
We're not there yet.
oh, yeah, so I'd like to encourage, as we did on Walton Street, that it be approved as a package. Even though it's a landscape feature, it's integral to the garage and the look and the feel and the authenticity of a garage should it occur there.
Okay, so
I like the look, actually, Nick. I think it does fit in beautifully with that.
I'll just say from other projects, we've done other ADUs and garages, I know water mitigation has been an issue once the new structure shows up. But having a semi-pervious surface is the cobblestone, as opposed to a non-pervious surface, like a, full driveway. So that would help mitigate the water issues.
There's already a driveway there, which was put in just
Okay,
recently.
so then that,
It's
yeah. so then-
asphalt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so if
is
you took the
asphalt,
asphalt
that was
out
already
and put
approved.
in, then the water would have somewhere to go, as opposed to just running off onto your property.
Because they do have a water issue.
Yeah, and keep in
You have an
mind,
Reality is
permit?
it's all sloped
No, we
toward
haven't.
the garage. so
Correct.
We're in the middle
They're
of
gonna
the
need a
site,
French
we're looking
drain.
for
Not
people
have
whether
the
they want to
garage
finish
full
the
of
kitchen
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
upstairs as.
But yeah,
a
again,
long
You
thing, or
can't
just
tell that from.
not our purview, unfortunately, on this
single-family home, and That's
commission.
why
Yeah.
it's sitting there.
And what
We
about
had like 4 or
lights?
5
Do
people looking
you,
to buy it as a
there are
site.
lights on the
Exterior
garage.
Lights are, yeah, exterior
like
lights.
exterior lights, is
Yeah,
that part of?
there is
And they're
exterior
shown
lights
on the drawing,
showing
and
on
you'll
the
need,
plan.
you'll need,
Yes.
Like
you'll
the
need
fewer the
fixtures
better.
submitted for
The fewer
that.
the better, as far as like light pollution.
It's a code
That's a-
requirement that the garage.
Aim some of
has
them
to
right
have a
at
light.
your house.
It is,
Or mine,
no, but
yeah,
it is
exactly.
something that is an ongoing
Well, lanterns that
problem.
will match.
throughout the city, and
Throughout the
especially in the
city.
historic district.
So, it would make sense, Gary, I'm glad you brought that up, that the lighting, is the lighting on the house already, those pendulums?
Yes.
The lighting on the garage should be as dark sky compliant as possible. So it probably won't be like the sidewalk lighting on the front door.
Okay.
It makes sense for you to be more sensitive to, given the
Absolutely, 'cause
location
we're so close
setback.
to them, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of back in there.
Correct, yeah.
So, I guess, unless we have another opinion, so I'm sorry that, this is one of those projects that's gone, and it's like every homeowner's nightmare, me included, and I've got one going next to me since 2015. That, I guess I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess, I feel I'm sorry for you folks, all of you, But,
Well, the good news is, it should have been torn down. It was a boarded up rat hole with rot and everything. We spent almost $1 million in there to make their homes worth more than they are, so they
Yeah.
can complain all they want, but I think they're better off than they were.
yeah.
So
Well,
I think that-
Wait, I don't think that's true.
All right.
But I think that looks better than what was there, that's all I'm
Is there
saying.
anybody, there's
No,
nobody else in
The
the
truth
public?
is that this property was the sister building.
It was the same
And
as
it was
mine.
butchered back
Long,
100
long
years
ago.
ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then
They ran
instead
out
of
of money.
bringing it back to what it once was, it
Yeah.
got the
They got-
bays fixed up when they probably should have been removed, and
Looks good
the
now.
windows all ripped out because they were 2/1s or 2/2s, I can't recall now, but.
So, I guess that, you'll need to come back for
Yeah, public hearing.
The question is, do you want another work session with more details, or do you want to, with what feedback
just-
you've received,
I
do you
think
want to go
just-
to a public hearing?
I think we just go to a public hearing. I think we're good with that. I think it's pretty simple. I mean, I could have the architects just draw the back door and support that.
Yeah.
Throw my email up through the office, upload that to the portal perhaps.
Well, you're
Backdoor
gonna have
lighting,
to-
paving,
Yeah,
Pardon
all the
me?
materials.
Yep.
materials.
I would suggest you hop on that immediately because you're going to the Board of Adjustment before you come back here to get the
Okay.
variance, I'm
Okay.
guessing.
Yeah, because
And if that's what you're doing,
Yes.
it would make sense for you to address all the issues raised here as soon as possible, work with your neighbors on both sides,
Okay.
because they're likely to be present at the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Create all your construction details for the overdig and the slab, and hopefully get these three people on your side, because you won't be back here if you don't get the variance.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
All righty.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
motion to close the work session.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? How about a motion to adjourn?
Is that it? Are we the last?
Hey, anything I can do to help
Aye.
any of the four